The current presentation is going to concentrate on assessment and evaluation. So especially about the different bridge analysis on evaluation patterns as well as the reliability concept. Suppose if you are actually going to do some evaluations, and what are the different reliability concepts you are going to take care. Fine. Well, before getting into this particular reliability concepts and different types of analysis methods for evaluation, so I will be starting with some of the basic concepts. Okay, so describing a structure. Okay, so you take any bridge structure, as I said, in the maintenance, you need to know for what purpose the structure has been constructed, for what purpose the bridge has been constructed with a box girder or I girder or T girder. So why does this span has more length? So everything has reasons. So in that consideration, we are going to describe structures based upon different criteria. So for example, number one, function. So what is the purpose of the structure? So what is the need of the bridge to be constructed at that particular area? Does it have more than one function? Okay, so this function, describing the function of a structure, especially a bridge structure, is very important. So for example, in near to our campus, you might have seen the Vandalur bridge. So the bridge, the Vandalur area in National Highway was already completely filled with traffic. So they started constructing a new flyover. So such kind of analysis and justification is required. Okay. So number two, safety. The structure must be built so that it's safe for people to use and stable enough for people to enter. So see, even these 6 different criteria are revolving around 3 base concepts. As I said, 3S: safety, stability, and serviceability. So whatever functions or whatever design analysis, whatever the patterns you follow for maintenance of any structures, not only bridge, even for any structures. So all the basic structural components principally follows the 3 basic principles: safety, stability, and serviceability. Fine. So the next criteria is cost. Of course, the amount of money you are going to invest. Okay. So it will decide you what kind of material you are going to use, the design, the building, maintain the structure, and whether you are going to maintain a routine physical maintenance or any cloud-based management. For example, nowadays most developed nations started using sensor-based maintenance. So even in India, so after some 2015, throughout the nation, the country has faced several flood issues. Okay, so after that, the Central Water Commission (CWC) has mandated that all the flyover, the bridges which crossing on the river path, okay, so that kind of bridges should have flood monitoring equipment. So wherever the bridges, especially where the rivers are crossing, you can see a small cup will be fixed at the center of the bridge. So that will transmit real-time data to the Central Water Commission. So the Central Water Commission, based on that, will give the flood alerts to the people. Okay, especially for the traffic that is moving on the bridge. So even in Chennai, if you go, since I am from Chennai, I'm telling you, any bridges that are crossing over the rivers, you can see. So especially in Saidapat, Saidapat bridge, you can easily see such kind of arrangement. So you can see a small cup. So it actually works based upon the real-time data transmission. So such kind of maintenance can also be included. For example, you can use sensor-based monitoring. Okay, so for real-time, any beyond whether the structure is moving beyond stresses and all. Then of course aesthetics. So aesthetics, normally we do not concentrate on bridge structures, but still the girders, shapes, and also gives a very importance in case of the bridge goes near any historical monuments and all. So normally, if you observe the UNESCO, wherever the UNESCO structures are coming, so there the nations, especially the developed nations, concentrate more upon arch bridges or cable suspension bridges. Next, materials, of course. Materials are very important in deciding the functionality of your structure, especially bridges. So whether you are going to use girder or pre-stressed girder, or you are going to use steel girder bridges, okay. So that kind of decisions will be made at materials, okay. There are some ways we can strengthen weaker materials. So the best example is concrete, which is weaker in tension. So there we are using reinforcement. So just like that, for different materials, we have different strengthening materials. So you have lamination, layers are different materials are pressed and glued together. That is called laminated. So you can see some, you can go through some of the plywoods which are exclusively advertised as laminated plywoods. And then you have composite materials. Best example is your concrete, and our woven or knit materials, spinning, twisting, looping, knotting fibers together give material more strength. See, all the functionality of the materials rely mostly upon the characteristics of material. Even you might be designed a structure for any kind of different functionalities, but still the major constituent is the property of a material, right? So how do we judge the materials? You take RCC. So when I mean RCC as a composite material, so what are the major property that comes to your mind?
Great strength.
Strength means tension and compression. Okay, what else? In concrete, what else you will be inputting?
Quality, sir.
Quality. So of course, so when your material properties are good, so for example, strength you said, fine. Strength is determined based upon the tension and compression. Then you have a density, right? Then you have hardness, ductility, brittleness, elasticity, toughness, isn't it?
Yes.
Actually, we have a problem. There are even sometimes people do not distinguish what is hardness, what is elasticity, ductility, and brittleness, right? So strength, for example, RCC, we come under tension or compression. So strength means the ability of a material to withstand the load applied. Okay, for example, tensile strength means the ability of a material to withstand a pulling force, whereas the compressive strength means ability of a material to withstand a pushing force. Okay, so density. So what is density? So it's typically a mass per unit volume of a material. Okay, material with high density are very strong and offer great protection. So commonly that thumb rule we use, right? Materials with high density are very strong and offer great protection. However, a high density material means that they are heavy and difficult to work. That means you are going to put more money on that. Okay, so you have to relate such a way. So you are going to choose a higher grade of concrete. So higher grade of concrete means higher density. So is that really required? Is that this density of the material is really required? Because so when you go for a higher density, so your heaviness of the material increases, as well as the difficulty to work with the materials also simultaneously increases. So that results in economical consideration. Then another major important property that we should know is hardness. Okay. So hardness is nothing but the ability of a material to resist permanent deformation under a sharp load, for example, any impact or accidental loads. Okay, so it relates to the elasticity of a material. And for example, the best example I can give is diamond is having a very huge hardness, isn't it? The diamond is a very hard substance, but suppose if you built a wall out of diamond, definitely it would be sure that it would resist any scratches, right? Suppose if you are going to build your compound wall with a diamond, obviously it will resist any type of scratches or whatever it is. But so what about the economical consideration? Is that is required at that particular point? Are you going to definitely need such investment? Right, because diamond is incredibly expensive and not as tough as other engineering metals, right? So it would not stand up as well in impact loading versus other materials, right? So sometimes people when buying a new car will always be worried about the scratches. Okay, in that scenario, diamond have very good protection over scratches, but obviously it's incredibly expensive and it's not as tough as other engineering metals. Okay, and it would not resist any good impact loading versus other materials. So this kind of justification knowledge is very important for a structural engineer. Then ductility or brittleness. So it's nothing but the ability of a material to deform without fracture. We want materials with high ductility because they will indicate structural failure without sudden collapse. That is why we always concentrate on more ductileness, right? So even our earthquake codes also mandate more ductility of kind of a structural arrangement because it indicates the structural failure without a sudden collapse. Elasticity. It is the ability of a material to deform and return to its original shape. That is called elasticity. So ductility is ability of a material to deform without fracture. Without any fracture, it have the ability to deform. The same material, when returned back to its original shape after removal of load, okay, then it is called as elasticity. See, this is how you can correlate and study. So what is the important quantity of elasticity? How does the elasticity determine? By Young's modulus, right? So the ratio of stress to strain. So based upon the Young's modulus, you can generate a stress strain graph. So that is directly related to ductility of a material. Then there is another important property, that is toughness. Toughness is nothing but the ability of a material to resist fracture when stressed. That is when enormous amount of load is applied. So how does the material resist a fracture? Right? So the area under the stress strain curve when evaluated from 0 to desired strain. So that is called toughness. So we know what properties are important in structural materials, right? So these are the important properties that you need to take care when you decide upon different functionalities of your structural design. So next important thing you have to concentrate is joints. So wherever, for example, the beam column joints, so wherever the steel joints are coming, so especially when you're going to join two girders, so at the ends of the girder, what is going to be supported? Okay, so this plays a very important role. So mobile joints, they are joints that allow movement. Okay, so roller supports in the girder, okay, the door hinges, shoulder joints, etc. Then rigid joints, which does not allow any movement at all. Two metal beams welded together represent a rigid joint. So sometimes in railway tracks, you can see the tracks normally when they want to increase the length, they will put it fish bolts. We call it as a fish bolt. Fish bolt will be put up and the rail length will be increased. So in some cases, okay, we will be using complete welding. So that kind of joints are very rigid joints. Okay. And then fasteners. So the best example is your fish bolt, as I said, the fish plate, and you have the gusset plate, which are used to join the beam and column plate. So that fasteners. Then interlocking shapes. Normally in bridges, at the bridges you can see completely it's of a structural concept, right? So you have girders, piers, everything gets supported. But if you observe approach, we call it as an approach. So from zero ground level, you have to climb up to the bridge. Immediately you cannot climb up, right? So you can see some slanting portion, that is called as approach. So below the approach, normally it will be filled with soil. At the side of the approach, if you see, you can see some interlocking panels. Okay, the panels will be interlocking panels. So that kind of interlocking panels will be utilized, and then we fill it with soil and then compact. Because those kind of panels, economically it's good, and as well as the panels are very stable as well. Right? That's why we use interlocking shapes, ties, the pieces tied together. Example, stitching. Okay. So adhesives, normally adhesives if you're going to use any sticky substances to fasten things. And finally, you have melting and welding, pieces of metal or plastic when melted together. And then for any project, you need, so especially for bridge projects, you need to consider environmental impact. See, not only bridges, any infrastructure project, you take power plant, nuclear power plant, okay, or any industry oriented, okay, such kind of infrastructure projects are required, definitely required environmental impact analysis. We call it as EIA, environmental impact assessment, right? So how the building and using of the structure affects the environment, whether this factor is becoming more and more important as the environment becomes a more important issue in current world. Well, see, in the previous slides I told you about the importance of choosing a material such that it helps in the improving the functionality of a structure, okay. Then we have seen some of the points like toughness, hardness, ductility, elasticity, how does they relate to the materials, and how does material directly links to the stability of a structure, okay. So we call it as a structural redundancy, fine. So for here you can see that, fine, sorry. You can see here, right? So this particular bridge, it had an impact because of a collision of a truck at high speed, okay. This bridge survives initial damage due to system redundancy of the structure, okay, and its reserved safety. How does it attain such safety? The primary reason is the material they have chosen, okay. Second is, while designing, the reserved safety, the factor of safety what you have used, so that has also helped in sustaining this kind of collisions. So that is why the material property plays a very important role, okay. So concrete. So what are the advantages of concrete? Don't take it as reinforced concrete. I'm asking about concrete. First and primary advantages of concrete. What is the primary advantage?
Good in compression.
Okay, good. Then,
And also water
resistant at up to some point, okay, that's also
Yes,
good. So then you can tell another point also, it is very versatile, right? So you can modify the concrete with the admixture for different effects, different shapes as well, okay. So as he said, it's very good compressive strength, fire resistant, water resistant, and you can make any different shapes, right? Disadvantages is concrete have very low curing time, low tension strength, that's very important, low tension, and it fails in shear unless you reinforce it, okay. And fairly, it's a heavy material to work with. So although we practiced to work with concrete, so we do not bother about it, right? Steel. The major advantage is steel is very good. It have the capacity of high tension, right? So it have many varieties of steel. You have carbon steel, stainless steel, galvanized steel. Depends upon your need. You can actually take different types of steel. And steel is having a property, very good property of elasticity, ductility, and many shapes and sizes as well. You can take I girder, T channel section, rectangular sections, or whatever it is. Right? So the major disadvantages are it is expensive. So especially in maintenance aspects as well. Okay. So the quantities are also limited when compared to concrete. Okay. Then another disadvantage is from World Trade Center case study you might be knowing. It's susceptible to fire, rust, and any impurities. You need more rigorous maintenance than your reinforced concrete. Okay. And coming to the reinforced concrete, it's concrete handles compression and steel handles tension. We know, right? And RCC when put together with concrete and steel, it can handle nearly 4 times the loading that concrete alone can handle. Suppose if you are going to put 100 kilonewton for compression, it can take 400 kilonewton. So this is how we have to take different types of different analysis on materials. Fine. So apart from materials, we in the first class I told you about the structural redundancy. So structural redundancy also lies on the shapes of the structures. Okay, for example, rectangle, square, triangle, or truss, or domes. Okay, so shapes have very good. It helps you in maintaining the stability of a structure. Okay. So, for example, you take a rectangle. Okay. So, rectangle advantage is you take a rectangle or square. Okay, it have a very great capacity in resisting the vertical loads that you are applying. But what is the disadvantage? It cannot resist what type of load?
Which one, sir?
See, I am taking a rectangular shape. Okay, rectangle. Okay, you take it as a rectangle. Here, I am applying vertical load. Fine. It have a very good proficiency in resisting vertical load. What is the disadvantage is it does not have a support to resist one type of load. What?
Lateral load.
Exactly, lateral load. So a rectangle does not have the capacity to withstand the lateral load. Then you take triangle. Obviously, triangle is a very good redundancy. Fine. It is able to withstand lateral load as well as vertical load. Okay, and many different types of triangle shapes you can make, and you can increase the redundancy of the structure by using triangular shape. The major disadvantage is only economical aspects, not technical aspects, because triangle, you as far as you increase the width of your base, fine. So as far as you increase the width of your base, you have more stability. But when you increase the width, you have a larger dimensions. Right? So economical wise, it's not good. So you are going to the best shape from these two, the basic rectangle or what do we say, triangle. The best shape you can take it as just like your concrete and steel mixture. You can use a rectangle with bracing. Right? So another best example is the combination of square and triangle, where you can find out. You can easily find out the combination of square and triangle in your trusses. Okay. So such kind of knowledge is very important for you guys. This is not going to help only in maintenance of bridges. Okay, this will also help you in when you go to site. These are the things you have to keep in mind. That how you're going to choose your different materials. Okay, so whether the materials is high density. Okay, so even in nuclear reactors, I guess you all are aware of that. Even in nuclear reactors, we use only M40 grade of concrete. So commonly in India, we use only M40. Okay, so because even they can go up to M60. But the thing is, when the density gets increased, what happens is the brittleness of the concrete is increased. Okay, so for that you require to use different types of admixture and different types of fibers to strengthen it. Fine. So that again makes the investment looks heavy, right? So that's why we have to justify the material type that you are going to use. So these are the things I wanted to tell you on materials. So that help you in maintaining the structural redundancy, and that's how you are getting such kind of redundancy. Definitions, basic definitions. Redundancy is the ability of a system to continue to carry loads even after overloading of members. Fine. So it's very clear, right? The definition itself is self-explanatory. Then robustness of a structure. It is the ability of a structural system to survive the loss of a member and continue to carry some load. Okay, so I guess you know the difference between redundancy. See, normally we get confused of what is elasticity and ductility. So both have the same. It looks like similar, but technically they are different. The definitions are different. They are interlinked, of course. Similarly, redundancy and robustness are also interlinked, but technically how you can define is the ability of a system to continue to carry loads even after overloading. At any particular point, if the building is overloaded because of, and it have the any structural member because of any impact load or any deterioration of concrete spalling. Okay, so when it takes only lower percentage of loads, okay, then other structural members should have the capacity to carry its load. Okay, so that is the redundancy. Now, at some point, when the column itself gets removed because of any blast loads, okay, it gets removed. So other nearby columns have to transfer the loads without failure. That is robustness. Okay. Then you have progressive collapse. So it is the spread of an initial local failure from element to element, resulting eventually in the collapse of an entire structure or a disproportionately large part of it. So normally we have different types of collapses: progressive collapse or pancake collapse. Okay, so pancake collapse is sudden collapse which results in immediately deterioration of the slab from top to bottom. Okay, whereas the progressive collapse, so from the failure point, one by one it starts collapsing. Definition of reliability. Reliability of an item is the probability that it will adequately perform its function for a specified period of time. Whether the construction is reliable is the first question comes to our mind when you go and purchase a new apartment from any of the builder. Okay, so the reliability means, say, sometimes you can observe that even after within 5 years of time limit, you can see more number of cracks occur in some of the apartments, and you can even see some of the dampness in out of bathrooms. You can see the dampness. You can easily observe the wall that is between the bathroom or bedroom or common room. Okay, so such kind of instances makes reliability a question. Within 5 years, if such things occur, what happens for the next 15 years or 20 years or 25 years? Right? So that is what reliability means. Okay. See, whatever concepts I am telling you, we go to redundancy, robustness, and finally reliability. So all these evolve around, okay, the material that you are going to choose, the type of material. Right? So material selection is very important, and primarily it's going to play a major role in any of the constructions you do. So that is why for a quality construction, for a reliable results, you require quality materials, right? So just like your food, so if you use a very good quality rice, very good quality ingredients, you'll get a tasty food. So just like that, if you're going to use very good quality materials, you're going to get a reliable structure that lasts for years. Right? So time is involved here. It's specified for a particular duration. Normally we consider it as 99 years. Okay. So how do you determine reliability with quality? So reliability includes a passage of time. Quality is a static descriptor. So, or may include reliability as one component. So high reliability implies high quality. Right? So for example, tire once made in 1960 versus 2000 or 2020. So both are high quality. See, now obviously the tires are definitely going to made with very good quality, okay, with respect to the standards that were made in the particular year. Okay, whereas the recent years, the tires are very reliable and last long. So say suppose if you have a car which is 15 years old, okay, so if you go and see the car, you can see some of the radiusness, the thread patterns. See, normally in tire companies, people will do more research in finding out the reinforcement of tires. Even if you cut the tire and see, you can see small strips of steels passing through it. Right? And the another important criteria in tire companies, the thread. Okay, so what is the major role of thread is it will help you maintaining friction with the road, and in case of any off-roading, okay, so or in case of stuck in mud or in wet conditions, so normally we go for such kind of analysis to purchase a tire. So that is where your quality and reliability lies. See, of course, for your car, okay, you are going to purchase, okay, see, for example, I will tell you from my own experience. Okay, I have a Yamaha Fazer bike. So in that bike, normally people will buy stock. The stock tire is MRF. Okay, so if you come and see my bike, I have a Continental. You have a Michelin. You have Pirelli. Okay, whatever it is. Okay, okay, everything. Even you go for MRF or even Seat or TVS. Okay, so they all tires are very good in quality. Okay, there is no second opinion on that. Okay, all are good in quality, but the reliability is. Now, usually I drive my bike at 100 to 110 km per hour, okay, on an average speed. So average speed will be 90 km per hour. Okay, and even during rainy season, I don't reduce my speed. I want to maintain the same speed, but I don't want to reduce my braking. Okay, see, my criteria is, of course, I shortlisted all the tires. Okay, so I will not compromise on my braking capacity. I won't compromise on my speed, my handling, which directly results in my handling. And finally, even during the road is wet, I will not compromise on any of the following factors: speed or braking distance. Okay, so based upon such scenario, I will choose which is best. Okay, suppose if you are going to use more cornering capabilities, okay, so definitely people will go for a Pirelli or Michelin. Okay, and in commercial aspects, if you are going to use it only for your job purpose or regular usage, and you are not much bothered about cornering, okay, so in that scenario, you can go for Continental. Okay, so in my bike I use Continental because even at wet scenarios, when I go for 90 km per hour, it gives a very good impact. So this from my experience. So my bike is almost currently it's 94,000 km of running. Okay, so such things determines the reliability and quality. So I guess you can understand what is quality, what is reliability. Fine. So reliability, another best example, the world-renowned example, Space Shuttle Challenge accident on January 28, 1986. Obviously, we all have studied. We must be studying this, right? Even from school, some of the case studies, even on BTech, when you go for any environmental-based studies or a professional ethics paper, this is the best example we will teach up. Okay. And even for how does we relate this with our bridge is, obviously bridge is going to be constructed with any of the material. Okay, so the material requires, we always speak about the quality. What about the reliability? Okay, so I just wanted to give you an example based upon this case study. Okay, this is the picture of the space shuttle, and this is the primary unit, I mean the exhaust unit. So these are the different components. Okay, suppose at the upper atmosphere level, if you observe, the space shuttle will release its first tank so that the weight gets reduced and it will pump up, okay, to move outer atmosphere. So then see, in three such stages the fuel tank will be released, right? So in such areas, between the fuel tanks, there should not be any gap. Okay, so that's where they use O-rings. Okay, this is the O-ring. Yes. So what happened was, so during the flight, the rocket causing bulges which widens the gap between sections. That is what I said. You have different components of fuel tanks which will be used for at different atmospheric height. Okay, so when it crosses the first stage, it will be first released and move, push up and move up. If it reaches second stage, the second component will be released. So the weight will be again lowered and then it pushes up again. Right? So between these components, because it should be released at the same time, it should not have any gaps where the fuel or any gases should be leaked. That is the point where we will be using this O-ring. Okay. So due to low temperature and bulging effect, both O-rings failed, resulting in accident. The launch reliability, see, I have highlighted the point. Reliability calculated as 0.87 at 31 degree Fahrenheit. Okay, but actually the reliability factor should be 0.98 at 60 degree Fahrenheit. Fine. So this is where your quality and reliability matters. Okay. And if you observe here, you can see this particular area where I put arrow mark. You can see, right, some area like splitted. It shows like something splitted, right? This is the fuel tank. So these are the points where they will be using the O-ring. Because suppose if they want more push all of a sudden, then this O-ring will help in sealing as well as it will help in leakage of any gases. Okay, so the quality of O-ring is very important so that the launch is more reliable. Right? So that is where you can correlate your quality and reliability. This is the picture of explosion. Okay, then. So structural performance, fine. So structural performance is based upon the load factor, the material, and very importantly, suppose I am applying the load. Okay, for that load, the first member failure, ultimate capacity of damage, when does the structure lose its functionality, ultimate capacity of intact system, bridge response. Okay. So these are the deterministic criteria. So these are the equations that you will be using to find out the assessments or deterministic criteria is, what do we say? So wherever even in your finite element, suppose at some point if you want to understand, suppose if 1 meter beam, you are dividing it to 10 parts and you apply mesh, for example, everywhere you 10 by 10 square sizes. Okay, so in that scenario you will be finding, it will help you to find out the stresses very accurately. That's why you are going for finite element, right? So now I want to take one particular element and I want to find out whether that particular element individually can withstand the load or not. So that kind of studies is called as deterministic studies. Okay, so the deterministic criteria help you. See, normally you calculate the bridge analysis and design as a whole. What happens when you take it as an individual? So such assessments are made using this formula. Okay, so ultimate limit state, functionality limit state, damage limit state. So these are the three different criteria. The first one, ultimate limit state, is what you will be using for your analysis, design, execution. So functionality limit state is the point where you will be considering your factor of safety and property of material in case of any impact load or accidental load. And damage limit state is once the impact load is higher or loss of structural member, any loss of girder, loss of pier. So such time in such scenarios, how does you are going to determine? Right? So these are the three important equations. The state of art of redundancy is the new guidelines to have high levels of redundancy in buildings. So this is included in National Building Code NBC. Okay, so high levels of redundancy is important in buildings. So how do you achieve redundancy? Number one, the shape that you are going to utilize. Number two, the materials that you are going to use. Criteria are based on deterministic analysis. So why you require deterministic analysis? Normally you will do analysis and design, you get all the factors, right? So you know at what point the deflection takes place, at what point the structure gets failed or the member gets failed. The deterministic analysis helps you in deciding the functionality and the damage limit of a structure. Then uncertainties in estimating member strength and system capacity as well as applied load intensity and distribution justify the use of probabilistic methods. Okay, so probabilistic methods normally used only for assessments, okay, not for evaluation. Structural reliability. So this is one of the figure where you can check out. So what is the load effect and resistance? Normally, if the load having this much of effect, okay, so there is resistance. If you used a correct material, your resistance should also come up to this length. Fine. So that is what the reliability studies means.